like to call to order the Board of Supervisors meeting for Monday, October 15th, 2018. Please join me in pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. How about roll call to establish a quorum, Amy?
Supervisor Tony Hayne.
Here.
Supervisor Jim Nellen.
Here.
Chairman Dan Wolfel.
Here.
Supervisor Linda Waite.
Here.
Supervisor John Stabenus.
Here. All right, next item on our agenda is the meet and greet, so maybe we'll go in reverse order with John, and then if you'd introduce yourself as we get out to the floor, please.
John Stabenus, Whitefish Bay Road, Town Supervisor.
Linda Waite, Supervisor, 5075 Bluff Court.
Dan Wolfentown, Chairman, Park Road.
Jim Nellen, Supervisor, 4501 Laurie Lane.
Tony Hayne, Supervisor, Matthew Road.
Amy Fluck, Clerk Treasurer, County Road P.
Mark, if you would.
Oh, Mark Nelson, 4529 Roy Lane.
Pam Seiler, 6155 South Shore Center Circle, and also Gardens, 28 Visitors Center.
John Deal, Whitefish Bay Road.
Dan Tuzak, Northeast Asphalt, 1524 Atkinson Drive.
Nancy Goldberg, 4250 Woodland Drive.
Ann?
And Laddie Jackman, Glen Drive.
The cameo appearance. Okay, good enough. Welcome and thank you. Public participation. So if you have anything you'd like to speak to, anyone here other than the people that are on the agenda? John?
On Everly Road, where the no parking signs were put up, on the town dump site, there's one missing. And it went missing the morning of opening of duck season. Did we take that down, or did one of the hunters take it down?
I took it down. We took it down, the town.
Okay, I thought there was no parking on that road.
It presented a problem. We had too many people, too many vehicles that couldn't get into the parking lot with all the stuff. So in order to prevent a blockage on the road, we took the one sign down. So it's been that way since last year after opening duck season.
Okay, projected date on when the town dump is going to be finished. Does anybody know that?
It's done.
What's that?
It's done now. There's nothing more to,
The fence
it's all been
is
seeded. It's all been seeded. There's nothing left to do with it. So,
What about the trees along the road or the fence along the road that was supposed to go in?
the what?
The fence that you guys were gonna put in along the road?
We decided not to put a fence in. We've held off on that. We decided to see how big a problem it would be before we incurred any added expense. And I would have to ask Tony, but I believe we were pulling the last of the fence posts out of there, correct?
Yeah, we're working on that.
So, and we decided to postpone putting any trees along there till we figure out whether we have a big enough problem to merit the added expense.
So next year when the kayakers come and it creates a problem for them parking, you will remove that no parking sign on that side of the road also? Or is it just for when the hunters are there?
The sign is off, period, totally.
So it's gone completely?
Correct.
So
It's
you're
not
gonna-
going to be, it's not
You're
going to
gonna
be.
pull a post on that side too then, or are you just gonna leave the post?
We left the post there intentionally. Eventually, we'll probably take the post out, but we decided for the short term to leave it in. So,
It was kind of defeating the purpose of spending all the money on that parking lot, wasn't it?
I'm sorry?
It's kind of defeating the purpose of spending all that money on that parking lot, correct?
I'm not quite sure I understand you.
Well, the object was not to have any cars parked on that road.
That was the object, but when we had hunting season, we had too many boats and trailers for the size of the lot. So that that was what initiated the decision to take the sign and remove it.
So again, the hunters get the privilege and the kayakers don't.
Kayakers can park in the same place that the hunters are. We're not prohibiting anybody. There's not going to
Kayakers
be,
were parked in the parking lot.
if they want.
I'm asking a question. All of a sudden it disappeared opening morning of hunting, so the hunters are getting privileges and the kayakers aren't. I'm not here defending anybody. I'm just trying to understand why the sign just, whoop, disappeared opening morning.
I just explained why the sign, did you have anything else?
That's not,
Okay. Anyone else? All right. So it would be a good idea to, you had the agenda properly noticed?
The agenda was properly noticed.
Okay, then we would need a motion to approve.
I move to adopt the agenda for Monday, October 15th, 2018, as noticed.
I'll second that.
Motion by Linda, second by John to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried. Thank you. Next item would be the approval of minutes, Board of Supervisors meeting for September 17th. Everybody had an opportunity to take a look at those prior to being included in the packet.
I'll make a motion to approve Monday, September 17th.
I'll second that.
Motion by John, second by Tony to approve the minutes from the Board of Supervisors meeting September 17th. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried. Thank you. First item of business this evening is a special report by Pam Seiler from the Sturgeon Bay Visitor Center on the Wayfinding Project. I heard just a little bit about it at one of the city meetings, so I'll be curious to hear what you have, if you feel free. Can you pick her up over there, laddie, without any problem?
That's fine.
That's great. Thank you.
Right, I won't take a lot of time because I do know it's Catherine Brewery night, so we'll get you out of here fast. And I just want to also point out to you that Supervisor Nellen does sit on our board at the Sturgeon Bay Visitor Center, so this is not new information to him in this capacity either. So
Right.
if you do have additional questions beyond this evening, please feel free to reach out to Supervisor Nellen or myself, and we'll be happy to answer those questions. What I'm here to do tonight is simply be here in a informational capacity. The Door County Visitor Bureau, along with the Sturgeon Bay Visitor Center and the other visitor centers throughout the peninsula, meet on a monthly basis. And we do this so that we can avoid conflicts with events, and we can support each other through the things that we're doing. And one of the things that has come up in the last year was our need for wayfinding. Basically, that our signage throughout the county is not sufficient, it's not cohesive, and we started to have a discussion about how nice it would be if once you crossed the county line, you actually knew you were in Door County, starting from Southern Door all the way up to inclusive of Washington Island. So this is something that Sturgeon Bay has looked at since back in 2009, but of course things happen and budgetary restrictions are in place, so it basically got shelved at that point in time. And knowing that if we did this together as a group, as a county-wide effort, then we would probably be able to have pretty significant cost savings in both the design portion of the wayfinding system as well as in the implementation and fabrication of those systems as well. So what happened, and I will, in this first packet and again in the secondary packet that I handed out earlier, you'll see just a pie chart there of the cost of this design portion, which is $58,000. That is for the entire county's wayfinding system. That is being broken down by community, and by community I mean by those SCP or Strategic Community Partnership funds that we get from the Door County Visitor Bureau through our room tax dollars. The only thing that is not shown on there as of right now is that the County of Door has also pledged $5,000 towards this project. So again, it's broken down by community. The Sturgeon Bay Visitor Center,
Pam, I'm sorry, we just got a message that people
can't
that
hear
are
you.
listening to it live on the cable channel cannot hear you, so I apologize.
No worries.
Maybe if Laddie could grab the mic for you.
sorry.
I'm sorry,
one
Pam.
I thought it was loud enough for everybody, believe me.
And this, reason we're not on this pie chart
Sevastopol is
is
not.
because we're part of your marketing through the,
Do you want me to stand, sit?
Whatever, if you want to stand
You're
and hold
hand
it,
it,
you
hold
may,
it.
if you want to sit down,
Okay. Sorry, I'll just hold it because it's probably easier for me, and then I'll go back to my original spot here.
Thank you.
The reason that Sevastopol, yes, is not on this is because we received the SCP funds, those strategic community partnerships, from Sevastopol. And so that's what is lumped into that Sturgeon Bay amount. The Sturgeon Bay Visitor Center, over a year ago, had already determined that wayfinding for the Sturgeon Bay 54235 was something that we wanted to once again revisit. And so they had made a commitment to pay for the design portion of this solely. So again, we're not here asking Sevastopol for any money. We are simply saying this is what the Sturgeon Bay Visitor Center is going to do, what we have committed to financially. And you will have a plan as part of 54235 because of the Sturgeon Bay Visitor Center commitment. So just so you know, going forward, we are hoping that we are signing on with this Axia Creative. We hope to have that the contract signed by the first part of November. We are still waiting for other communities. Other communities are actually paying for this design fee out of their governmental budgets. Some of them are getting some support from their visitor centers as well. But each of the communities is being, addressed and talked to about this project so that everybody is on the same page and knows what's going on. The reason that I bring it to you now is because, again, in addition to the design portion of this that you will get because of the design concept, then you're going to have to determine what it is that Sevastopol wants to do with that. If you want to shelve it, if you want to be able to utilize it as you go forward in making improvements here in Sevastopol. The county is very interested in this program because they would like to also incorporate the design into like the county parks as an example and county signage. Again, we're not asking anybody to lose their identity. Each of these towns will be very uniquely represented, but it would be a cohesive look, a cohesive branding, and again, so that everybody knows from the moment that they hit the county line that you're in fact in your county. Jim, is there anything that I am missing here? I think is a brief overview.
I think that's right.
So again, yes, know that when the time comes, we will present that design plan to you. There will be community members that are involved in the overall design plan as this Axia Creative comes up and follows through. We anticipate it being about a 6-month process. So it's something that for 2020 in Sevastopol, you potentially might be wanting to look at and saying, hey, based upon this, we have X number of kiosk type signage or X number of highway frontage signage, and this is what the dollar amount is going to be so that you can actually budget for it going forward, if you so choose.
Is there an inventory of signage out there, or is this group going to provide that?
That group will, yes. What they do is they actually come into the communities. They choose to almost get lost in the communities to figure out where it is that this signage needs to be. A lot of times when people think of wayfinding, they think about, oh, more signs. We already have so many signs. And that's exactly what this is designed not to do. It's designed to clean up all of the clutter of all the signs that have happened and have been put up over the years and just because, or because somebody needed one or wanted one. So the idea is to hopefully clean that up and make it very easy for the user, whether it be a resident or a guest.
Is there a ballpark guesstimate on what the community might?
Do you know, I have to tell you, I have made some phone calls to other communities. Appleton recently, well, I shouldn't say recently, probably within the last 5 to 10 years, did an entire wayfinding system. You can only imagine how, extensive that is with all of their municipalities. The good news is that Axia has worked with other counties like Door County before, so they're used to having to bring together, a number of municipalities within those counties to make sure that everyone is being serviced. I don't have any idea. I do know that a community that I called, they actually spent $1.5 million on wayfinding signage in just the fabrication and implementation. We obviously have no intention of, I don't think anybody has even close to that amount of money. So again, it would be whatever it is. Once you get this plan, they'll come in with their GPS, Google trackers and such, and they will be able to figure out, points of entry and access points for, kayaking or for, the boat ramps and launches and restrooms and the such.
So it's not so much just our existing signage,
No.
It is the placement of, strategic placement of signs.
Absolutely. That they're taking into consideration. And also keep in mind on the state highways, that's when we, get the Department of Transportation involved as well, because only certain types of signs can be put up in certain sizes, and Axia will also work with them, and we've brought them in from the beginning of this proposal, so they're aware that this is something that we're looking to do. But again, just strictly informational, just wanting everyone to know what it is that we are taking on as an organization and then moving forward.
And I just wish to reiterate what Pam said. No monies are being asked of the town. This is money that that is being provided by the Sturgeon Bay Visitor Center, and it's effectively it's their money that they will contribute towards this.
Is that me or? Sorry.
That's our drum.
And then also, Pam, you mentioned the DOT and the state highways, and you're aware of the coastal byway designation of 4257. And we're in the process of starting our next 10-year renewal. So maybe Axis could help us with that as well as far as signage goes. If maybe there's something in the scenic byway program that we can,
Can
work with.
Co-op with, absolutely, yeah. And I know that they will, when they come in and they do their initial, drive-throughs of these communities, they will, make note of all of those things. And if this is something that you think that you're gonna have to be replacing in the next, X number of years, that they might have options for you on that.
Any other questions from anyone?
No.
Well, thank you, Pam.
Thank you very much.
2020.
I'm sorry?
I say we'll look forward to spending money in 2020.
I like that, thank you. I got you on that. You heard that on tape.
You might as well give the mic to that gentleman there, Mark.
Sure.
Next on our agenda, we have Mark Nelson with the Door County Legislative Days for 2019. As you know, in the past, as a town, we've contributed towards that effort to try and raise awareness of issues that are relevant strictly to Door County. And I think Mark is here to tell us that he'd like to give us some money this year for being a
No, unlike Pam, I'm asking for money. I have no bones about that. I'm good at that. But anyway, I want to say thank you, though. That was the first thing I wanted to say, is that we appreciate your support. And since I've been involved with the program since 2003, you guys have, I think, every 2 years have supported the program, to my recollection. I took a little sabbatical for 4 years, but so I can't speak to those. But yeah, thank you for what you've done. I gave out a sheet here, and we have a list of our top accomplishments there. Door County, Kewaunee County Legislative Days started in 2003, only with Door County. In 2011, Kewaunee County joined because we had so many common interests, being on the Door Peninsula, our COPS topology, being on the Lake Shore and the Green Bay both. So it just made sense to have some similarities there. Real briefly, a couple of really big things we've done. Back around 2007, we had 7 beaches in the summer test positively for E. coli contaminations. So Legislative Days went down, told the state we really need some funds to test all the beaches because we don't have those funds, capability there, so they got money for that. So once we were able to tell the public that the beaches were safe, which is huge not only for the citizens of Door County, but for the tourists of Door County to want to come here or not. If your kids are getting sick on the beach, you're not going to want to come if you got a family. And so we got money to test. Well, that's not good enough then. We also got money to find out what the problem was. Back then, a lot of people thought the problem was the Milwaukee with their sewer system, that whenever they had a big rain, they had sewage that go right into Lake Michigan, and thought that would drift up like the air does and contaminate our air, which it does do. That wasn't the problem at all. The problem was our beaches. Our beaches had very fine sand particles, and they were very flat. So what would happen is when it would rain, the water would pool, and then the birds would do their thing, and the sun would heat it up, and you would have E. coli. So then we had to come up with a solution, and the solution was to put coarser grained sand into the beaches, and then to put an angle to them, like a roof. And one of the big things there is this fast-tracked the municipalities to be able to get DNR acceptance. I mean, if any of you have ever worked with the DNR on trying to landscape a beach, they are not very entitled to let you do very much. We also got $50,000 toward each one of those. That's not a lot of money when it comes to this kind of expenditure, but it was better than nothing. And so a number of communities, Bailey's Harbor, Sister Bay, Sturgeon Bay, all took advantage of these programs and made our beaches safer. The other really, I shouldn't say really big because there's a bunch of big ones, but in 2000, well, I can't remember the year, but back when they had the explosion at the Pioneer store, where a construction company had nicked an underground propane tank lines and killed 2 people. A year to the day after that happened, the governor was at that Pioneer store rebuilt and signed legislation to make sure that Digger's Hotline included underground propane tank lines in their when they did their work there. So that's a public safety thing that's huge. We've had a lot of other big ones. A kind of a small one that had nothing to do with money, but was still important to the county, was last time a bunch of the Southern Door school districts were pushing their legislators to let the school year start before Labor Day. You can see all the hiring signs out in all the business now. If the school kids and the college kids weren't available for a lot of these businesses on Labor Day, that really would have put a crimp in a lot of businesses. They're having a tough time as it is. But so we push back on that type of legislation too. One last thing is we also do some what we call agency issues, where we meet with the agencies, whether it's the DOT, the DNR, the administration. And for years, the town of Gibraltar had been plowing Peninsula Park, and they were supposed to get paid for it, and they weren't getting paid. So we had them meet at an agency meeting. They met together, and lo and behold, the town of Gibraltar finally they got back paid and got paid for doing the plowing that they were supposed to be doing all along. So you can resolve different smaller issues. It doesn't have to be these big issues all the time. And so we're planning to go down, and we've been doing this since 2003. We're going to go down here in 2019, and I'm asking you to consider coming up and being a silver sponsor again for your budgeting process. That's why I'm here, so that you can put it in the budget. And you guys have come down there a lot. We appreciate that. We appreciate what all you folks do. The reason we need sponsors on this is we only charge people $25 to attend. And that gives them a golf shirt. This is Door Kiwanee Legislative Days, which I didn't wear today. I'm wearing my Packer stuff. But it also buys lunches and also a dinner if people want to come down. Last Legislative Days, we had 130 people come, including 40 high school kids, 20 from Door County and 20 from Kiwanee County. So so we underwrite those costs, and it costs us $17,000 to get it done. And we have the county and the city of Sturgeon Bay and the Kiwanee County come in at the $2,500 thing, and we have other towns and villages help support us to make this happen. So it's a great return on investment. One of the things we're pushing and have pushed for a long time is the cards topology. Since 2003, we have always, every 2 years, told these folks that we can't have a one-size-fits-all for water issues, and so they're finally addressing that issue. There was a lot of pushback from the agricultural community on that, but it finally looks like we're making some progress and getting something done on that. And the other one we've always pushed for real hot lately, and we're not quite as successful as we'd like us to be, but is better internet support to try to get more broadband throughout the county. We're in a dead-end alley here, and with our karst topology, with all the limestone, it gets really expensive to bury these lines or get them out there when they can't keep on going to the next community. So that's what I'm here for. Any questions?
I have a couple.
Okay.
Have you identified some of the top concerns that you're going to try and pursue on this trip?
Well, we have a steering committee that tries to pull these together. We have three criteria. One, it's got to be non-partisan. Two, it has to be sort of a Door Kiwanee, local thing. Can't be a statewide issue. And third, it's something that we can't handle ourselves. We don't have the resources to fix it ourselves. Otherwise, we should just fix it then. Now, again, I can't make this official. Some of the things that have been brought up, the affordable housing, I think has a very good chance. Affordable housing, I think has a very good chance of making it. We'll have the affordable housing report out shortly. I've talked to people in the industrial park that hire people at good paying jobs with good benefits, and lo and behold, they lose them because they can't move up. When they start trying to look for housing, they can't find affordable housing, even at a manufacturer's wages, which can be fairly decent. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be one. I can't guarantee it. I think the room tax issue for Sturgeon Bay is probably going to be one. That's one where, and one of the nice things about this is, again, to give you an idea, we have teams of 4 or 5 people with team leaders. We do the training, do a number of training sessions in Northern Door, Sturgeon Bay, Southern Door, down in Kewanee. And we come there and we meet with all the legislators, every one of them. And I should say, we normally meet with a lot of their staff, but the staff do most of the work anyhow. And anyway, so what that does is it really greases the tracks for Joel and either Caleb or Andre, whoever's going to be our senator, to be able to get legislation through. Because one of the things we do is try to educate people in Door County, because we tell them, we're a cash cow. I can't remember what the numbers are, it's been a while, but back I know for a long time we were 7th or 8th in revenues produced for the state. And for a county of our size, that's huge. I mean, Milwaukee, Madison, Dane County, some of those ones are a lot bigger, but we produce a lot for them. But we educate them in that Door County, I know, again, I haven't seen the latest figures, but for a long time we were like the lowest medium income of the 6 counties in northeastern Wisconsin. So even though they have this thing about Door County and all this expensive luxury stuff, there's a lot of people that are struggling in Door County, and we do have some issues and some problems that need to be addressed. So I guess another one I think probably is going to be that they do have a room tax, a premier room tax they did up in Sister Bay, and the feedback I'm getting there is they did that by zip code, and Gibraltar and Liberty Grove doesn't have it, but the Liberty Grove people who have to pay room tax are being charged it. It's automatically going on their billing, and so I got a hunch that might be. I know the internet, we need more help with the internet, expansion, whatever can be done there. And you could say that's statewide, and we say no, it's not statewide because Door County is a dead-end alley. Others other areas don't have the problems that we're facing here.
And you hit on two of the things that I would say from our perspective would be right up there, which would be internet, broadband, and protecting the room tax, which pays for this building. So that was my concern. So
yeah. So, but you guys are welcome to participate. You have participated in the past, and like I say, we've had I think a pretty good group, and we really do try to limit it to like 5 or 6 issues. We don't go down there with a laundry list. Now we can do a laundry list of agency issues, but we're much more concentrated and focused when it comes to the legislative issues.
anyone else have any questions?
Well, I have a comment. I think that generally in the legislature, the majority of concerns that surface during the legislative session come through paid lobbyists. And I think the benefit of legislative days is it gives not only the legislators themselves, but also their staff, it's sort of a litmus test of the intensity with which a community looks at certain issues. And I think that that's very important, because what the lobbyists, I think, are very helpful in so many ways. But I think that every once in a while, most legislators do have a concern as to how do the constituents back in the district feel about the issue. And I think that this is as I said, I think that this is a very effective way of communicating that concern about certain issues to legislators. And I endorse what you're doing. I think it's.
I will say, from Gary Byes all the way to Joel Kitchens, we've gotten rave reviews from the other legislators, both appreciating our civility, appreciating our professionalism, and appreciating the efforts that we put forth. And you're exactly right, Jim, is that they do appreciate the fact that we go down there and give them specific solutions, what we're asking for, and we're really well received.
Well,
What are the dates?
not to carry on a conversation back and forth, but I think that's also very important. Legislators are oftentimes get questions from constituents and bring them problems, but very rarely do those people do they have a solution, a proposal to the legislator. So you're left with an angry constituent, but you're not quite sure exactly what he has, or what she has in her mind as to what the fix is. And I think the fact that you can go in with a proposal in which you identify the issue as well as a possible or several possible fixes, so you can stay at it.
If you guys like it so much, you can go up to the next package too. I mean, just so you know, you don't have to stay at that.
We don't even know
package.
what the dates are, Mark.
No, the reason we do that is twofold. First of all, normally I start this process later. when we had just Door County. And with Door and Kewaunee County's got a lot more towns and villages than Door County does. But the other part is we really need to get closer to the, see, we really can't have hard dates because we gotta wait till January for the elections to take place and then the new people to come in because they dictate, we have to get their permission sort of. So you don't know that you can have the same speaker and the same, heads of the legislature. So we normally do this around December, start this, what I'm doing now, but I'm starting early just because I got a lot more places to go.
Okay. Well,
But you will be hearing when we're doing it.
I'm sure we'll I mean, I speak for the board, but I shouldn't say that, but I suspect that you'll be able to count us as a contributing partner.
Thank you.
But we will go through the process for agreement. Thank you much.
There you go.
All right, back to the agenda here. Talk a little bit in our new business about road work. For those of you that don't know, Nelson Lane, which was one of the roads that we had selected this year through the LRIP process, they have stripped the road down, and they anticipate, depending on weather, probably doing it next week. And at the same time, they will try and finish up the West Shore, Sylvan Circle north to Town Line. So depending on weather, it hopefully will happen next week. The other thing I included in your packet is some information regarding different road surfacing, and with the idea being, give you an opportunity to think about it a little bit before we try and work on our budget next year. I don't know if you've noticed, but Sturgeon Bay, all of a sudden there were like 4 or 5 roads in Sturgeon Bay that appeared like they were blacktopped, but they weren't actually blacktopped. And so I called up Chad Shepchek, who's the city engineer, and asked him about the roads and asked him what they were doing, trying to understand how to stretch our road dollars a little bit more. And I know the fondness that the board has for chip and seal. And so I wanted to understand just how much of that we could apply before we would all be impeached. But in all seriousness, I did talk to them about the roads and tried to figure out, because they're under some very tight budget constraints in Sturgeon Bay and what they're doing. And basically, the city has used 3 different processes. They've used the chip and seal, which has an average cost, they say, of approximately $235 a square yard with a 5 to 7 year life. They've also done what's called a slurry seal, which is a liquid, runs about $250 with a 5 to 7 year life, pretty much in the same category as chip and seal. But most recently, they've been using what they call micro surfacing, and it's a product that Farner applies for them. It runs about $2.75 to $3 a square yard, or about $30,000 to $35,000 for a mile of road. All right, and what I've given you, and I've asked Farner, and that's what I included in here, to send us some information and to kind of give you an opportunity to understand a little bit more about it. The city uses it for a variety of reasons. One is it extends the life, he anticipates, between 6 to 8 years when they use the micro surfacing. And the biggest advantage for the city is that it's dry in 2 to 3 hours. So they only have to take a road out of commission for 2 to 3 hours, which gives them, obviously people can access their driveways and everything else. There's no chip and seal process that they have to come back and sweep and re-sweep, so that's an advantage to them. Before that they have done micro surfacing, they do some crack filling on some of the roads. And they believe that once a road is alligatored, and we certainly have a number of those in our town, that it is something you do not want to apply, that the road surface is past its useful life, or past the point in time that we could do a chip seal and try and fix it up. They did Oregon, 5th Avenue, 1st Avenue, Utah, and Iowa streets. Utah is the easiest one to see. If you want to take a ride, you can make a left-hand turn and you can see what they did. It does a little bit of leveling, very little, but it's thicker than slurry, but it is not pavement. On the roads that they had done, if there were issues on the road bed, like weeds, they'd send out a city employee with a gator and some weed killer, and they'd kill anything that was in the cracks so that they didn't have that as an issue. And I did talk to Farner, and based on his conversation, I think maybe in the December, January, I'd ask him to come in and talk a little bit more about his product. because we could do 4 or 5 miles of something like this to save some of the roads before they get to the point where they're alligatored and, we don't have enough money to be able to pave everything on any kind of timely basis. And then the last thing I talked to him about was I was wondering whether or not microservicing would be good for our town park. As part of our budget at the park meeting, we have recommended, or will recommend to the board, that we have all the cracks sealed and then the surface, what do you call it? Back to black, seal coated, thank you. Yes, seal coated. It's funny, he knows our parking lot, so apparently he must spend some time up here. He guesstimated that it would cost about $3,000 to $4,000 to crack seal and fill that parking lot, and then a few $100 to get it seal coated, which is just about the estimate that we received from some outside people. But the park is approaching a point there where we need to prevent any more water intrusion into that surface, so we don't end up having to replace all of that pavement. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention, ask you to look at it. I'll have this gentleman come up, talk to us about it at some point in time prior to doing our road inspection, and see if this might be a feasible alternative for us. Any questions from anyone?
I was wondering about this fog sealing. If we did, do more chip and seal, and then you added fog sealing over the top, would we have less complaints from the neighborhood, and would we have less pea gravel flying around? Or that would be something, I guess, for the Farner to, Bill Glatz to tell us all about.
His take on in fact, if you look on the one solution, it's called granite chip and seal. He doesn't like using what we use apparently up here, which chip limestone, and believes the granite creates less of a problem with having to go back and re-sweep. It's a harder stone. So he said if you did do that, he'd recommend you switched from what you are using to granite. But we can certainly ask him to talk about that.
I'm glad you pointed that out, because he does have in here enhanced granite chip seal with the fog seal over the top. So.
Right. So
Yeah,
I thought it would be worthwhile.
I would think if you go from the
Pardon me?
stone that we're using now to the granite, there's going to be one heck of a difference in price.
Well, I don't have comparables, and it's not anything that we bid or anything. I just got
Right.
some ballpark numbers and to try and see what's up. Looking for a solution to prolong the life of some of these roads until we can build,
We have
build a
two
base.
experts in the
There you go.
audience.
And these guys are with RAS paving or something, right?
Yeah.
All right. Did you have a comment that you wanted to add regarding that? You're welcome to.
You're on the right track.
All right. Thank you much. Okay. So we'll have him on a future meeting. And then the Bluff Court cul-de-sac. I'm not even sure I can adequately explain this, but the approach that we thought we were taking at last month's meeting, which was to do a quick claim deed to return some of the
Lane.
culvert area to the landowners so that this person,
Cul-de-sac.
to the cul-de-sac, right, to the landowners, so that the proposed construction could happen on the vacant lot. Turned out that when it went to the attorneys to do the actual paperwork, they discovered that it was not the right process. And so Randy, our town attorney, sent us a resolution, which I'll read shortly and a little further on, and said that it has to be approached a different way, and that he will be here in December with the final resolution after they notify the landowners of the process, and then we would approve it, and they will do the necessary paperwork to give that land back to the adjoining property owners. So, do you have a,
Oh, I have something.
please
yes.
feel free to.
I
and this
I
has
have a
been-
handout that will probably make it easier to understand what I'm saying as well.
This has been a lot of fun.
Yes, it has been. I was opposed to the action that was taken in October. And so initially, the property owners are seeking a variance to place the resident at 92 feet from the cul-de-sac right-of-way instead of the county setback requirement of 132 feet. So we have 40 feet in question, a nominal amount, right? So for the past 15 to 20 years, because we are under Door County zoning, policy and procedure on setbacks and variance requests and conditional use permits or land use of almost any kind has always been by means of a petition to county zoning. Our plan commission had the opportunity to meet with the property owners. Neighbors were notified, could provide input, and a recommendation was made to the town board, and subsequently that recommendation was forwarded to the county Board of Adjustment or the Resource Planning Committee. There would have been a public hearing to substantiate the request and be sure that it meets certain criteria, whether it's unnecessary hardship, unique property limitations, not self-created hardships, and no detriment to the public interest. I do not know why that avenue has not been pursued in this case. Last month, it was proposed to the town board that 4 property owners surrounding the cul-de-sac bulb wished that 16,000 square feet be quitclaimed by the town to these 4 property owners. That would have required signed petitions by all of the 4 property owners, acceptance by property and acceptance and notification to property owners within 2,650 feet. This is all per Wisconsin statute section 66.1003, I believe. 2 of those property owners were not even aware of the request back in October when we were here on October 11th. But now it appears that process has been abandoned. Now we have before us a resolution to vacate a portion of the town road right-of-way. And I'll read directly from that resolution. It says, whereas the town board of supervisors of the town of Sevastopol does hereby find that the public interest requires vacating and discontinuing of a portion of the Bluff Court Trail, and the resolution goes on. With all due respect, and it's not my intent to be adversarial, but I cannot support this resolution and suggest that we follow our policy and procedure, our normal policy and procedure on a request for a variance from a setback.
Well, if you recall the numerous packets of information that we received, and I don't have it.
I have them all.
Well, that's great, because this was sent to the county for exactly that purpose, and
Yep.
they declined to take it on. They said it was no longer, it was not a requirement. So from that point in time, that's how we got where we are at today. So if they didn't feel that it was a requirement, I don't know how we fix it. I'm not adverse to doing whatever. So,
That's contrary to the information that I received, that they are eligible to request a
what?
variance.
I'm sorry, that what?
That's contrary to the information I believe, that for
In,
some reason they did not pursue a request for variance.
In Jeff's memo to Peter Hurth, he says, I don't know the exact verbiage,
Yeah,
but
there was 2 options.
what was his? He responded
Yep,
back after I
okay.
asked Peter
Per
to take it.
the right-of-way for the bulb, okay, a variance process takes 2 to 3 months after completed position. It says nowhere in here that they would not look at a petition for variance,
Take a peek at that for a minute.
unless I'm misunderstanding something.
No, because when you raised the issue initially, and I sent it to Jeff, and asked Jeff and told Peter that it should lay with the county, then Peter went to Jeff, and in one of the documents that came back from Jeff, it said it didn't need a variance. And that's what brought the whole thing back to us.
Well, like I said, I'm not sure we should be deviating from policy and procedure. And that's what we've always done in the past.
Let me jump in for a second,
Please feel free, join
Because-
in.
because I only know what I read in the papers, but that were submitted, but my impression was it was set up in this fashion, that at the time that the town was asked to take over the roadway in that subdivision, if I'm wrong in my assumption, then it's important to know that. But what happened is that whoever platted the subdivision probably was in error. That's my assumption. And what normally is the case is when the town takes a dedicated right-of-way for a road, what it does is it takes a right-of-way that altogether the right-of-way or the easement is 60 feet. It's 30 feet going out of the center line of the road on a straightaway. So if you look at a straightaway and the town has a right-of-way going on either side 30 feet. Now, usually at least my understanding is generally the roadway itself, the hard pack is about 20 or 22 feet. Now, when you get to a cul-de-sac, as I understand it, is that the normal easement or right-of-way is 60 feet in a radius beginning at the center point of the cul-de-sac. In this case, and the fellow from Bodwin felt that what happened is they at one time when they platted this, they intended to probably put something in the middle of the cul-de-sac. So as a result, at the time they platted it, as I understand it, the right-of-way extended 100 feet from the center point of the cul-de-sac. And so it went 40 feet further out than the town normally requires. And in addition, there is a further 32-foot setback that the county insists on, which is how you end up, as I understand, that the nearest they could get with their building envelope would be 132 feet from the center point of that cul-de-sac. And I think that their view is that, look, when you look at it, they ended up, according to the plat, they ended up with a right-of-way that was 40, that extended out from that center point 40 feet in all directions, more than what the town would like. And in this situation, again, if my recollection is right, the homeowners said, by pushing me out to that 132-foot setback, I'm looking at a very steep incline. And he didn't say it was impossible, but he said it would be very difficult for him to build, in a building envelope that went out 132 feet. So my thought is that it's really, it's no, never mind almost. I mean, we ended up with an extra 40-foot easement that we wouldn't have asked for if the town had, in fact, if it had been platted according to what the town normally requires. So my view is, give the guy his 40 feet. Now, in order to do that, you'd have to give all of the homeowners that have property along that cul-de-sac, you'd have to do the same thing. So I felt that really nothing was being asked of us. We would never have used that extra 40 feet. And in fact, you could argue that in some regards, we're better off bringing that easement back to the normal 60 feet, because do we really want to restrict that guy from using it? And in fact, if he does something on that 40 feet, are we obligated to interfere, to object to it? It's the same issue we've got on some of the other roads where we have homeowners who obviously are encroaching onto the right-of-way. And the question we've asked ourselves is, to what extent do we need to take the initiative to inform those homeowners that they need to move, whether the rock garden or whatever it is that they've got on that right-of-way, move it back. So I thought to myself, it was essentially no harm, and we weren't, at the end of the day, net, the town would end up with a right-of-way that was equivalent to what it normally requires in a newly platted subdivision. So, if I'm wrong on that, then, I'm more than willing to revisit it. I just didn't think that, and I understand that there was a further problem, that at the time, that this subdivision was platted and they wanted to dedicate it to the town said, I believe that, oh, wait a second, we got a problem because on the straight-of-way, you haven't given us the 30 feet right-of-way we need on either side. And so as I understand it, there were certain homeowners who were on that right-of-way who ended up losing it in their mind, although all we were asking them to do was conform to what the town requirements are in terms of a right-of-way, and then there's the 32-foot setback on the straight-of-way. So that's how I ended up being amenable to agreeing with what he was proposing.
I found I agree with you. I found you are missing one portion of one of my emails that went to Jeff, but going back to August 7th. But Jeff responded and copied in Peter and myself, and it says, "Good afternoon. A variance is not required to reduce the cul-de-sac bulb radius to the minimum 66. Furthermore, county approval is not required to reduce the cul-de-sac to 66 feet. Since this is a town road only, the town would have to agree to approve the vacation of the right-of-way. No variances are required if the property owner can comply with the setbacks. If you have questions, feel free to contact me." That was the second one in a series. And then the one from Peter back to Jeff, and it says, "Dan and Linda, we will be not needing a variance from the county based on Jeff's response. Please place the vacating of the right-of-way along the cul-de-sac on the next available agenda," et cetera, et cetera. And from that, we got to last month's meeting where basically I think what we were doing was trying to help somebody who wanted to build and not having any great impact on us as a town. And Peter had agreed that all of the people involved were notified, and he sent me letters, copies of the letters to do that. And when all of that stuff happened, that's when it went to the attorney, Jim Smith, who's part of Randy's firm, or their firm, and then they came back and said, "Oh, wait a minute, you need to do something different." So that's the reason it came back here tonight, was because they said, you can't just do a quick claim deed. We need to go through this process, we need to make you aware of this resolution, and then 60 days from now, we can try to approve the resolution. So I don't think we're trying to bypass
No, I don't,
anything.
I don't disagree. If the town quick claims footage to them, right, they don't need a variance. I do not disagree with that. And as far as they do have, if this is the route that the board decides to pursue, okay, then nothing less than 40 days prior to, taking action. It requires notice to, I believe, a publication notice at least once, maybe a class 3 notice, I'm not sure. So, no, I don't disagree. If we quick claim some property to them, they do not need a variance.
So
But
you're-
this has not been our policy and procedure in the past, and I'm not sure it's a protocol that we want to set. I can see this coming forward in another instance. There's 2 other cul-de-sacs in my neighborhood. They're not as steep as the property in question. And like I said, I don't mean to be adversarial. I guess I just mean to be fair.
I think
Peter
that,
told us that all the property owners were notified, and now you're saying that some of them didn't even know about
I
it.
checked.
He said he sent out.
I'm not going to throw anybody under the
Right.
bus here, but I did speak with one of the neighbors the following day, and they were not aware of it, so.
Well, no, they were not. I believe you're correct on that, because one of the outputs from the conversation of last month was I said that Peter needed to go and inform everybody, and then he did a letter, which he copied me in on, I don't know who
Well,
else. and
after-
to it-
afterwards.
Right, so if you talked to him the next day, you're absolutely right, there was somebody there that didn't know. I don't know that any property owner would be distraught over the fact that they were given some land back.
No, they wouldn't be.
I don't think so. I mean, if you want to put the guy, let's put it this way, the resolution to do this isn't going to come back before us until December. So at which time, we either vote to pass it or we don't, at which time, if we don't pass it, then the only other alternative will be for them to initiate a variance. And then, for whatever it's worth, are we putting the person through a procedural process that's not really necessary, or do we feel that we have to? I mean, I think that's really what it comes down to, because I think in logic, saying that it doesn't hurt us, that I would think, only anticipating, but I would think people would look at it and say it's a reasonable situation, we'd support it. You know, I mean, we've certainly gotten support for things a lot
Well-
less than that, so.
The only reason that I feel I cannot support it is because that has not been our policy and procedure in the past. I don't mean to drag this out for months and months. A petition for a variance, we would have been done with this 2 months ago, but,
Have we ever been presented with this problem on a prior occasion? I mean, see, this may be a matter of first impression, in which case, you know, you're absolutely right, Linda. If we were to accommodate this gentleman, and we might have other people on those 2 other cul-de-sacs in that same subdivision, they might come to us and ask for the same kind of relief, in which case I'd be more than happy to give it to them. I say that, I haven't looked at it, I don't know exactly what it looks like, but, you know, if the towns, as I understand it, if the town has adopted by ordinance a requirement that on cul-de-sacs, that we be given a 60-foot right-of-way extending out from the center line, the center point of the cul-de-sac, and in fact, we've got 100, you know, I'm not sure I would necessarily be opposed to granting the wish of other people. Now, having said that, I don't want to run roughshod, and if in fact we want to set this off another month and make sure we can have an engineer come in and reconfirm my understanding, I'd be more than happy to do that. But I agree also with what the chairman says, and that is, if we get real pushback from property owners, we'll know very quickly whether or not, you know, what the general view is. And that could very well inform us.
and the town has vacated roads in the past. Usually, I can,
No, we've done
Tickler.
Randolph and Nelson,
Yeah,
Nelson Lane,
Nelson.
Lauser Road, others.
and, you know, it was the entire road. It wasn't a certain amount of footage to accommodate a variance or a setback request. It was just, the town no longer has use for this road.
Well,
So you heard, I put in my 2 cents worth.
well, it's
and
okay.
I'm
I
sorry.
mean, I appreciate that. I think
But-
here would,
I think
Go
that
ahead.
was to accommodate somebody's setbacks, 2 of the Nelson Lane ones, so that the corner of the property would come out right.
oh, that was, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was years ago. That was down by the quarry, or parents' property there,
Yep.
that parcel. You're right, we did do that.
yep,
We squared up his property, the fellow that was gonna build and then didn't build.
And didn't build.
As you drove into White, Parents
Talking about-
Pit,
Oh, are you talking about Lake of the Woods
the
Drive?
Lake of the Woods Drive on the right side between there and the fellow that we vacated the road for.
right.
That was an issue where we had to square up the property so he could build
Could
on it.
build, have
And then he
enough land
didn't
to
build.
build.
I guess my take on it is this. I'll be happy to communicate with Peter and tell him, you know, of your issue, of your concern, and ask him, or give him the option, I should say, of going whichever way he chooses. Either go with the flow and see how it shakes out in December when it comes to the vote, because we're not voting on it tonight. Or if he decides that he wants to cover his bases, let him go for a variance in the interim, and one, you know, 6 of one, half dozen the other. It makes no difference to me. I think in the end, a logical person's going to support their request, assuming we don't oppose it. But that's,
And frankly, I'm glad that our attorney caught the problem and that we are putting homeowners on notice. We probably should have figured that out for ourselves.
we need a couple more lawyers on our. So, and if you have no objection, that's what my suggestion's going to be. I'm going to talk to Peter, and I will let him know where we think this stands, and let them decide which way they want to go with it.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Okay? All right. Should we skip over the conditional use permit for Northeast Asphalt and
No.
let these guys sit here? I'm
I
sorry.
apologize.
Wasn't expecting to have you here quite this length of time. John, I'm going to let you just jump right in on this for
Okay.
their conditional use permit for Northeast Asphalt.
Yep, Northeast Asphalt is requesting to establish a temporary asphalt and concrete plant at 4429 Matthew Road, Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, which is inside of the quarry at the end of Rip Road. They had a temporary site in 1995, one in 2000, one in 2014, and another one in 2016. And the projected start time is April 1st, and they're going to go to September 27th, 2019. They've got all their bases covered. I mean, they're going to check with the DOT on how to get all their stuff in there. They got operating hours, they got portable toilets, they got bottled water. And at our comprehensive plan commission meeting, we did have one person in the neighborhood in favor of Northeast Asphalt, said that they were good neighbors. And after the I don't know if it was the first one or the second one where the trucks were coming down Rip Road, they straightened that out, and they've been great ever since with keeping the dust down and everything too, so.
Would this be an almost exact duplicate of what we approved in 2016?
Yes, pretty much.
Same conditions
So,
on the
I
road,
know-
where they're going, what
Do you
they're
have-
doing?
Mr. Matusak, do you have anything else?
Yeah, it is pretty much the exact same. The only difference is one of the conditions on our last permit was 120 days working period. Obviously, that's not going to work with what we're learning from the DOT right now, being from April 1st to potentially September 27th. There is a chance that we could be done by June 28th or somewhere in there, but we don't know all that information like that. But other than that, yeah, everything is.
So this is pavement for right here from junction of the mill up to Bailey's Harbor?
No, it's from the split at Sister Bay down to Fish Creek where we left off in 2010, just before the corner.
So who's doing, maybe you guys are doing the piece isn't that next year where they're doing
Yep.
from the mill?
From the
Okay.
mill to Bailey's Harbor where they
Yeah, they're
left
doing
off.
it. Yeah. Did you do the Bailey's Harbor to Sister Bay
Yes.
component? I guess somebody's doing that next year, I don't know who.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, and just the biggest thing is they didn't want to be on Rip Road. And they were supposed, they got to use Matthew to go to P or Matthew to go to the highway, so. But other than that, it's exactly what we've put through on the other one, two,
So all you have to
three,
do is watch
four.
out for the trolley, for the
Yeah.
line trolley.
Right.
Okay.
Just making it smoother for them.
Yeah, there you go.
Any other
So-
comments from board, questions from anyone?
No, our comprehensive plan passed it through 5-0, so if there isn't anything else, I'll make a motion.
If you'd like to.
All right, I would make a motion to recommend to the RPC for approval.
I'll second that motion, as long as it includes all of the
All of
conditions
the
in the staff
conditions.
report.
We have a motion by John, a second by Linda to approve the conditional use permit for Northeast Asphalt on Matthew Road. No further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Good luck. Don't forget
Thank
to
you.
leave some free pavement for us.
Good, thank you.
All right.
Packers were up 10-7. And Brewers were up 1-0.
Oh,
All right, that's a bonus.
All right. So resolutions and, all right. So the first thing here is the resolution to vacate a portion of Bluff Court Trail. And I guess I'll read a quick synopsis of it, and then it gets carried over till December of this year. Resolution to vacate a portion of Bluff Court Trail, whereas the Town Board of Supervisors of the Town of Sevastopol does hereby find that the public interest requires vacating and the discontinuing of a portion of Bluff Court Trail in the Town of Sevastopol, Door County, Wisconsin, in accordance with Wisconsin Statute 66.1003. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of Supervisors of the Town of Sevastopol does hereby vacate and discontinue that portion of Bluff Court Trail, Door County, Wisconsin, as herein described. And I'll just give you a parcel of land located in Government Lot 2, Section 7, Township 28 North, Range 26 East, Town of Sevastopol, Door County, Wisconsin, bounded and described as follows, which is the actual legal description. And it says, I, meaning Amy Flock, duly appointed and qualified clerk, Town of Sevastopol, Door County, Wisconsin, do certify that the foregoing resolution has been compared by me with the original on file in my office, and that it is a true and correct copy of the resolution duly adopted at a regular meeting of the Town Board of Supervisors of the Town of Sevastopol held on, and we'll bring this back in December. So, with that, we have something that was brought back last month, which is ordinance number 02-2018. And this is a ordinance establishing a four-way stop sign at the intersection of Whitefish Bay Road, Bark Road, South Cave Point Drive in the town of Sevastopol, and prescribing penalties for violation thereof. We had lots of discussion on this thing last month. If this is a surprise to anybody, please let me know. If not, for purposes of expediency, a motion to approve would be in order.
Go ahead.
No.
No, I agree with the four-way stop. I think it's a lot safer, and I think a lot of the people in the neighborhood are going to be happier with four-way stop. So if there's no other discussion, did you have something, Supervisor Wade? Okay, I would make a motion to approve the ordinance number 02-2018.
Motion by John,
I'll second it.
second by Tony. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Roll call.
It has to be a roll call vote.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, that's right. Go ahead.
Supervisor John Stabenus,
Aye.
Supervisor Jim Nellen,
Aye.
Supervisor Tony Hayne,
Aye.
Chairman Dan Wolfle,
Aye.
Supervisor Linda Waite.
Aye.
Okay, now it's passed. Thank you. All right. We're left with financial reports, which are in your packet. You have fund balances, the budget versus actual, January through September. And you also have the transaction list by date for the month, if there are any questions on any of those. And if so, if not, we will give the floor to our treasurer for a moment. Amy?
The town of Sevastopol received their fourth quarter general transportation aids, and that you'll see in the correspondence. The local government investment pool is now paying 2.05, so it seems to be increasing by small amounts every month. The committees are doing a great job in submitting their 2019 budgets to me, and our work session is October 22nd at 5 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any other comments or questions? If not, a motion to approve the financial reports would be in order.
I move the approval of the financial reports.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Jim, second by Linda, to approve the financial reports for September 2018. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, approval of vouchers, bills, and claims. I think everybody had an opportunity to look at that and sign them. That's all taken care of. And once again, that fun thing, a motion.
I'll move to approve the voucher bills and claims for the period September 18th through October 15th, 2018 as presented. Yes, October 15th. September 18th through October 15th.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion by Linda, second by John, to approve the vouchers, claims, and bills September 18th through October 15th, 2018. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried, thank you. Okay. Oral committee reports. So, do we have any oral committee reports from anyone?
I do.
Jim?
Let me report very briefly on the PEG committee as well as the, our inquiry into increasing access for internet access in the town. The PEG committee met last week. It presented, or is presenting to the board, a no increase budget, and among the other issues that were touched on, and the draft minutes have been submitted, have been circulated. It's pretty clear that less than a quarter of the I would say the homesteads within the town actually subscribe to charter video service, not the internet, but the video service. This didn't come as any surprise to members of the committee, and that led to a further discussion as to, and an agreement that the committee would sometime, hopefully not too deep into the next year, look at other means of communicating with townspeople, such as social media. I want to quickly add, Laddie already takes whatever the video recording and processes it and puts it on the on YouTube, as well as broadcasting it over the PIG channel. I don't mean to suggest that it's an either-or proposition. It isn't. It's we've talked about looking at the relative merits of how we can maintain the commitment to transparency, which for us means broadcasting the board meetings so that they're available to as wide an audience as we possibly can obtain. So that conversation is going to occur sometime early next year. With regard to the internet, this has become an issue of great concern. The issue has probably been lying dormant for the last 2 or 3 years, but for a number of factors, it's suddenly gotten on everyone's radar screen, including the Door County Economic Development Corporation. I have provided a fairly lengthy memo of who I've spoken to, including conversations with the state broadband office. It's just all I've tried to do is gather the facts and identify the various means of accessing the internet. I think that, Mr. Chairman, at some point in time, we may want to, in the context of either a board meeting or in some other context, talk about how we might proceed. The town of Liberty Grove has tried to address this issue. They've approached it in a different way. There may be something there that we want to look at, maybe not. That's pretty much it.
Well, I think that's something we're going to take a look at, and I think we'll discuss it a little bit further when we start to prepare our budget, because I think we have to try and make it some basic commitment to try and make some of this happen and maybe expand it, but we'll have an opportunity to do that and see what we can do. And I know you've had conversations with Door County Broadband and Charter, so perhaps with some of the possibilities of us partnering with one of those individuals, we might be able to expand in some pockets of opportunities. And if any of you know some particular areas where people are sensitive to this more than others, there are some solutions out there that, although not extremely inexpensive, are not outlandish and can provide some very tightly restricted access, but still covering a reasonable area. Yeah. So.
And Supervisor Wade did connect me with one resident of the town who he should have internet coverage, but he doesn't. And and there are certain pockets within the town in which there's no effective coverage.
Yeah.
And I would ask everyone to be mindful of the fact that the state broadband office takes the position that high-speed internet, what they identify as proper broadband, is it's 25 megabits down and 3 megabits up, which means that most of the conventional means, and I think John probably is more familiar with this than anybody else. Typically, DSL through your traditional phone company doesn't come close to meeting the definition that the state broadband office has.
You have to be real close to a hub or an office to get anything like that. You know, within probably 2,000-3,000 feet. So, and the farther you get out, the less you're gonna get, so.
And it's becoming clear, and it's not just anecdote. You hear enough that people who are situated in one of those areas without internet access are suffering a significant discount in the value of their homes.
Yeah.
People are asking that question about whether or not people have internet. So
Well,
thank you.
with your help, we're going to keep pressing and see what we can do with it. So, thank you. Also included in the packet are the Property Management Committee minutes from May 17th and the Park and Rec meeting minutes from May 24th of this year. And there's also in the packet a copy of the letter that I signed at Jim's request, which went to the Wisconsin Department of Revenue. And I think you're all pretty much familiar with this, so I won't belabor it, but this was brought up last year by Chuck. And what's happening is the room tax, because of the zip code problem, the room tax potentially could be lost to our town. And so what we're trying to do with this memo is to focus the impact of this on the Wisconsin Department of Revenue so that they respond accordingly and don't end up costing us all our room tax dollars. This needed to be in right away, so I took it and made it part of the packet as an informational item, not to exclude you from your opportunity for input, but that's what took place, okay? So,
But
we...
now where, I
Go
was
ahead.
under a question.
Sure.
Where would it go then? I mean, where did it
Well,
go?
they'd have to figure out a way to break it out differently.
Right, I know,
Yeah, and
but they would give it to the 54235 area code, but.
Right, zip code.
Who gets it? I
And it
mean,
would all go to Sturgeon Bay.
at Sturgeon Bay,
That's
They
where the
would
zip
all get
code
it.
is, right. And then we wouldn't, we'd have to go and say, give us something, and,
oh yeah, they'd give us all of our money, I'm sure.
yeah.
Okay.
But it's not only Sturgeon Bay, I think you'd have the same problem.
Jacksonport.
Well, Nassauwapie,
Jacksonport.
Jacksonport, parts of
Right.
Egg Harbor, the town and everything would all, are all part of that area code. And I guess I didn't understand, like, just because, it's a zip code, that it's not necessarily just Sturgeon Bay, so.
Right, and they have to figure out a process and so that they're aware of it, because otherwise you can be sure that Airbnb and the rest of them and VRBO, they're not chomping at the bit to create more work for themselves,
Right.
so.
Well, and I looked at, search through Act 59, which is like 5,000 pages, but it states in there that, okay, a lodging marketplace must register and forward it to the municipalities. So I don't know where they're saying that this is all going to get lumped into one zip code.
The issue is that, first of all, the language you just cited is in the budget bill and has been law since the adoption of the last budget bill. And none of the lodging marketplaces, Airbnb or VRBO, are complying with it. And there's no indication they are going to comply with it. But if they were to comply with it, the fear on the part of the room tax commission is that they're going to get a check from Airbnb for $30,000. It's not going to be broken down by municipality. It's going, and they will have, because they fear Airbnb will not supplement that with any precise information as to the lodging providers who contributed to the money. They will have no ability to make the allocation between Jacksonport, the town of Egg Harbor, Nassauwapie, Sturgeon Bay, and Sevastopol. And as a result, they're going to be stymied, and they won't be able to make a distribution because they won't know exactly what the breakdown is, because they will have no further information other than a check.
Could our tourism zone commission administrator, who is a fantastic person, and a super sleuth, could if that does come to be the point where we get one lump check, would she be able to backtrack through her records, I think, and reporting? It would take her some time, obviously, to
nightmare.
allocate to the various, 5 municipalities alone under 54224.
Assuming,
It would,
yes, perhaps she could, but you just identified their issue, which is your true-up might follow 3 or 4 months later after you've gathered all the information. There's also the possibility that not possibility, but there is the problem with the fact that the lodging place providers right now, the Airbnb owners or VRBO, and I don't mean to focus entirely on them because it's a broader problem than that. It would be unfortunate if they looked at this as being an invitation not to continue to provide the monthly information that the Room Tax Commission has historically gotten.
Vacancy rates and all of those.
That's right, and if they choose not to provide that, then you really are stymied because you won't be able to do a true-up because you won't have the basic information showing nights rented and average room rates and all of that. So, now, having said that, they have been in touch with Joel Kitchens and Caleb Crossman. Have to wait until the November election, but both of them have been very sympathetic with the plight, and they understand that this is an issue that probably needs to be fixed by a change in state law.
Needs to be fixed.
Okay.
Cool.
So, county board report from Ms. Waite.
oh, I better keep this short.
Very.
Okay, you're invited Wednesday, October 17th, 3:30 to 6 p.m. at the dedication of the new ADRC/Door County Community Center on 14th Avenue. Refreshments, entertainment, and tours. So if you missed the open house that we had, when did we have that?
That was this summer.
Yeah.
July? Anyway, this is the formal
Also,
dedication.
the other one wasn't formal?
That was informal. Yeah, this is formal. So here's your chance. Let's see, and the next meeting of the Door County Board of Supervisors is Tuesday, October 23rd at 9 a.m. Still looking at, departments are still submitting, and our finance director and administrator are reviewing 2019 budget requests. That will come to the full board in November. Speaking of finances, we have a new finance director, Steve Whipperford. You may recognize that name. Is replacing retiring Mark Janiak. So, and our county clerk, and I'll give some kudos to our municipal clerk as well, Amy. We all know that election is right around the corner. So our county clerk gave election training, and there were about 70 to 80 people there. Amy also provided poll worker training in conjunction with the town of Jacksonport and the town of Egg Harbor. So we can all be assured that our election on November 6th will be of the highest integrity. Yeah.
Good.
That's it?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, license and permits, back to your packet. You have the September town file for a couple residences that were built or are under construction. And there is not a lot there. And after that, we go into correspondence, which we touched on a little bit about it already. The one thing we see here is on Door County byways. The fee for next year is going to be reduced, which is good news, from 300 to 100. We'll spend the extra 200 on some gravel. Amy mentioned the fact that we got our payment from the state for general transportation aids. There's also a copy of the last water report for the town. Again, everything absent, which is all good news. So it turns out that our well continues, our money invested in the well continues to pay dividends. There's the July 2018 update on the tax, the permitted dwellings for the room tax. And that is everything that is in there. Announcements would be budget work session, October 22nd at 5 p.m. The school's turkey trot, November 3rd at the town park. Budget special board of supervisors meeting is November 26th at 6 p.m. Excuse me. And the town Christmas party is November 30th at 5 p.m. Santa hopefully will be here. And agenda items, if there are any for next month, let me know now or later. And then to John's favorite part of the meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by John,
I second that.
second by Jim. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.